Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're unlocking a corner of the tech world that might be closer to your everyday experience than you think, especially when we talk about security and access. We're digging into a really fascinating report from Cognitive Market Research. It maps out the current state and, well, the future path of the global hand geometry biometric market. Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is really to pull out the most important insights from this pretty comprehensive market report. We want to give you a crystal clear understanding of where this unique tech stands, why it's growing, and where it's headed.
And what's truly intriguing here isn't just the raw growth numbers, though they are impressive. It's the subtle yet significant ways this specific biometric technology is finding its place across so many diverse sectors. For those maybe less familiar, hand geometry biometrics, it doesn't scan your fingerprints or your iris, not like in the movies sometimes. Instead, it uses the actual three-dimensional shape of your hand. Things like the length of your fingers, the width of your palm, the overall form, uses that to identify you. It's a pretty robust and often touchless solution that's really gaining traction now. So yeah, we'll look at the numbers, try to understand the patterns, and talk about why this expansion is so relevant for you.
Okay, so let's start with that big picture then. What does this mean for the hand geometry biometric market globally? Back in 2021, this market was already doing some serious business. We're talking sales revenue around 1.1 billion US dollars.
Solid base.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting. Projections show a substantial jump, like to about $1.54 billion by 2025, and then an impressive surge to over $3 billion by 2033.
Yeah, that's more than doubling in just a decade.
Okay, so to put that in perspective, that translates into a healthy compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of nearly 9%, 8.76% to be precise, over that forecast period, which really makes you ask, what's truly driving such consistent, strong growth over more than a decade? It signals more than just, incremental adoption. It suggests a fundamental shift in how organizations are thinking about security and verification, moving towards these highly reliable and often high throughput systems, things that can handle lots of people quickly.
Right, reliability and speed. Okay, let's break this down geographically, because the growth isn't exactly uniform everywhere, is it?
Not at all. There are definite hotspots.
North America, for instance, led the market back in 2021. They hit a robust $440 million in sales, and it's forecast to jump to around $615 million by 2025, and then further to over $1.1 billion by 2033.
Okay, so steady growth there.
Yeah, showing a steady CAGR of just over 8%, 8.32%. And within North America, the United States is, well, predictably, the dominant player. Started near $350 million in 2021, anticipated to grow over $900 million by 2033.
Still a strong market.
Definitely. But don't count out Canada and Mexico. Canada's market is expanding quite impressively, from $52 million in 2021 to over $150 million by 2033. That boasts a CAGR of more than 9%. 9.25%, actually.
Higher than the U.S. average. Interesting.
Yeah. And Mexico isn't far behind, growing from almost 40 million to over 110 million. Also a strong CAGR, around 8.9%.
It's fascinating, though, how different regions are embracing this tech. Europe, for example. It was valued at around $317 million back in 2021, and it's expected to surpass $845 million in 2033.
Okay, what's the growth rate look like there?
That's an 8.43% CAGR. So pretty similar to North America overall. Key markets like the UK, Germany, and France are really, pushing this forward. And France actually is projected to grow quite impressively, a CGR of nearly 9.6%.
Almost 10%.
Yeah, jumping from about $43 million in 2021 to almost $125 million by 2033. It really shows that widespread integration, even in, established economies.
Okay, established economies showing solid growth. But now, let's talk about the regions that are truly accelerating. That Asia-Pacific market started at, well, a relatively modest $206 million in 2021, projected to hit a striking $610 million by 2033.
Right.
Reflecting a potent CGR of nearly 9.75%. That's a significant leap.
It is. And this leads us to ask, why? Why such rapid growth here? India, in particular, shows really remarkable expansion, a KGR exceeding 10.8%.
It's over 10%.
Yeah, from just over $30 million in 2021 to more than $100 million projected by 2033. And Singapore, other Southeast Asian nations, they also show really strong growth rates, above that 10.8% mark as well.
So what does that point to? What's driving that kind of acceleration?
Well, this kind of acceleration often points to things like large-scale infrastructure projects, maybe new government ID programs, or the rapid adoption of new security standards across industries. Could also be a move towards more efficient workforce management systems. In industries like manufacturing, where this tech really excels because it works even if hands are a bit dirty or gloved.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. Practical applications driving it. All right, moving across the globe. South America. The market there was valued around $76 million in 2021, forecasted to grow to nearly $230 million by 2033.
Another big jump.
Yeah, with its DR of almost 9.9%, nearing that double-digit growth.
And who's leading the charge there?
Brazil, projected to grow from just under 28 million in 2021 to over 80 million by 2033. And countries like Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile, they're also contributing significantly. Some of their individual CAGRs even surpassed 10%.
So they're clearly catching up fast. A lot of momentum.
Exactly. But the most aggressive expansion, according to this report, poised to happen in Africa, starting from just under $21 million in 2021. Small base, relatively speaking. But this market is projected to soar to almost $79 million by 2033.
Okay, let's put that into context again. What does that CAGR look like if we do the math? That represents a remarkable CAGR of 12.3%.
12.3.
Yeah, making it the highest among all regions, clearly the fastest growing.
Wow. Any specific countries standing out?
Well, key countries like Nigeria and South Africa, they reflect similar robust growth, both exceeding 11.9% CAGR. And interestingly, the rest of Africa category shows an even higher growth rate, over 12.7%.
Incredible.
It really indicates a blossoming market in these developing regions, possibly linked to significant investments in new smart city initiatives, maybe, or large government identification programs or big industrial projects, things that require really reliable but also non-intrusive access control.
Okay, so looking at all these numbers, region by region, what's the core takeaway here? The report clearly concludes the hand geometry biometric market is on a very strong growth path worldwide. We see that. But what's really fueling it? Beyond just the raw numbers increasing.
Yeah, I think what really stands out are the underlying catalysts. It's driven by a confluence of factors, really. Rising global security needs. Just think about how much more critical secure access has become in almost every sector.
Absolutely. Post-pandemic world, too.
Exactly. That's coupled with ongoing technological advancements. These systems are just getting better, more reliable, more user-friendly all the time. And then, as we saw in the regional data, we're seeing expanding adoption across increasingly diverse sectors and regions. It's not just high-security government buildings anymore.
Right.
So this isn't just about bigger figures on a spreadsheet. It's really about the technology becoming more deeply integrated, almost essential in various aspects of our daily lives.
Can you give some examples? Where are we seeing it pop up?
Sure. From securing highly sensitive places like data centers to streamlining time and attendance in factories. Like we mentioned, where hands might be dirty or gloved, making fingerprints tricky.
Okay.
Or even managing access in high-traffic public venues. Think airports, maybe sports stadiums in the future. Hand geometry offers this unique blend of pretty good accuracy and often higher user acceptance compared to, say, facial recognition sometimes. It feels less intrusive to some.
That's a good point, the user acceptance angle. So what a journey through these numbers and trends. The hand geometry biometric market, it's definitely clear this isn't just some niche product anymore. It's a rapidly expanding sector with significant global reach and real-world impact.
Absolutely. Those compelling CGR values, especially the double-digit ones we saw in Asia, South America, and Africa, they really underscore the accelerating demand and, the bright future for this specific type of biometric technology, which I think prompts an important question for you, our listener. As security needs continue to evolve globally and as technology like this becomes more seamlessly integrated, how might your own daily interactions with authentication and access control change? Will the very shape of your hand become your most common key in the years to come?
Something to mull over until our next deep dive. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at a piece of tech that often flies under the radar, but it's actually super important for security and efficiency. I'm talking about hand geometry biometrics, our mission for you today. Well, we've dug into a pretty detailed market analysis, and we want to pull out the key insights, maybe even some surprising facts about this specific biometric technology. And here's something to think about right off the bat. In an age of, super advanced facial recognition, iris scans, how does a technology based on the simple shape of your hand still, well, hold its ground and even evolve?
Yeah, that's a great question to start with. It really sets the scene. Hand Geometry Biometrics, it's kind of carved out this significant, maybe unassuming niche for itself. You see it a lot in secure access control and workforce management. It pops up across quite a few industries, maybe not as flashy as some others, but its practicality where it's used is pretty undeniable.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit then.
Yeah.
What makes hand geometry biometrics so compelling, especially in certain situations, even now with all the high-tech options out there?
Well, the main driver, I'd say, is this growing need for access control that's secure, yes, but also genuinely non-intrusive. Unlike systems that need really precise alignment or maybe feel a bit like surveillance, hand geometry offers rapid identification, and crucially, it's seen as very hygienic.
iGen, okay.
Yeah, which makes it really well suited for places where you need both security and a smooth, sort of convenient user experience. Think about high traffic areas, maybe government buildings, certain airport zones, or big corporate offices, places where people are constantly moving in and out.
Right, that makes sense for secure access. But
Mhm.
what about beyond just, locking things down? Where else does it really shine in ways we might not expect?
That's a really interesting area, actually. Beyond just pure security, we've seen a huge uptake in its use for time and attendance systems.
For clocking in and out.
Exactly. Companies in all sorts of sectors, manufacturing floors, healthcare settings, big logistics hubs, they're using these systems to seriously cut down on time theft and also to stop what's called buddy punching.
Where someone clocks in for their friend.
Precisely. So using hand geometry ensures really accurate workforce management. It leads to, real cost savings. It's about accountability, precision in a way that's tough to cheat.
But it's not just about speed and stopping fraud, is it? I imagine these systems often end up in places that aren't exactly clean office environments. So how does hand geometry hold up in, say, a dusty warehouse or on a busy factory floor compared to something like a fingerprint scanner?
You've really hit on a key strength there. Hand geometry is known for being incredibly robust and reliable, especially when conditions get tough. Think about how dirt or dust or even grease on someone's hand can mess with a fingerprint scan,
Yeah, definitely.
or how different lighting can challenge facial recognition. Hand geometry devices, they're much less bothered by that stuff. They tend to keep working consistently, even in pretty harsh industrial settings or outdoors. They're built tough, basically, designed to work where more, let's say, delicate methods might fail or need constant cleaning.
Okay, it sounds almost ideal for those specific niches, then really resilient, practical. But if it's that good in those areas, why isn't it absolutely everywhere? What are the roadblocks it's facing?
Right, that's the flip side of the coin. And it mostly comes down to distinctiveness. Hand geometry, just by its nature, relies on a fairly limited set of measurements, finger length, width, thickness, some palm dimensions.
Great.
And while those features are unique enough for many uses, they just don't have the same massive level of statistical distinctiveness, the entropy that you find in, say, fingerprint minutia or the super complex patterns in an iris.
So less unique data points per person.
Exactly. Which means its false acceptance rate, the FR, that's the chance of it wrongly identifying someone, is technically higher than some other methods. And that tends to limit its use in, the absolute highest security scenarios or for really huge identity databases where you need extreme precision.
I see. And the whole tech landscape is constantly shifting, isn't it? Newer methods seem to be popping up all the time. How's that affecting hand geometry?
Oh, absolutely. The rapid advancement, especially in facial recognition and multimodal biometrics systems, using multiple methods, that's definitely impacted hand geometry's overall market share in some areas. These newer systems, they often offer better precision, and they're also getting cheaper and more common. So they're a strong competitor, pushing hand geometry towards those use cases where its specific strengths, like robustness, really outweigh everything else.
And what about integration? Getting this tech to, talk to modern systems, even if the tech itself is solid, isn't linking it up sometimes a challenge?
That can be a hurdle, particularly with legacy systems. While newer hand geometry units might have modern APIs, many older installations were designed as standalone devices. Think pre-cloud, pre-mobile integration.
Oh, okay.
So trying to retrofit those older systems to connect smoothly with today's, cloud platforms or mobile biometric apps, that can be complex, sometimes expensive. It limits their scalability and compatibility in these modern digital ecosystems. It's often less about the core tech and more about the age of the installed base.
Right. So given those challenges, the distinctiveness issue, competition, integration hurdles, is hand geometry just sort of fading out? Or is it finding new ways to stay in the game? Is it adapting?
Oh, it's definitely adapting. That's what's really interesting to watch. A major trend we're seeing is the strategic shift towards multimodal biometric system.
Combining it with other tech.
Exactly. So you'll see hand geometry being used alongside other methods, maybe fingerprint, facial recognition, or even vein patterns. This layered, multi-factor approach seriously boosts the overall security and accuracy. It's proving particularly useful in places like critical infrastructure or defense, where you absolutely need multiple layers of security. It shows its value as like one solid piece of a bigger security puzzle.
That's fascinating. And it seems like it hasn't completely vanished from its original strongholds either, right? Where does it still hold its own, even with newer stuff around?
No, not at all. Despite everything, hand geometry still has a strong, persistent presence, especially in low-cost legacy applications. Scenarios where durability and just sheer cost-effectiveness are the absolute top priorities.
Right.
And for installations that, frankly, haven't yet seen the need or found the budget to upgrade to more advanced biometrics, it's still a remarkably reliable and a budget-friendly choice. Think of a small factory needing dependable time clocks without a huge IT project.
That makes sense. One other thing that springs to mind, especially thinking about the world now, post-pandemic, hygiene.
Yeah.
How does a touch-based system like hand geometry cope with that heightened awareness, particularly in shared spaces or workplaces?
That's a critical point, yeah. The focus on hygiene has had a huge impact across all touch-based tech. For hand geometry, it's really pushed manufacturers to innovate. We're seeing explorations into completely touchless hand geometry variations.
Oh, interesting. How does that work?
Well, using cameras and sensors to capture the hand's dimensions without physical contact. And they're also integrating things like UV sanitation features right into the devices themselves. The aim is pretty clear: deliver safer, more hygienic biometric options for public areas, for workplaces. It directly tackles that very real current societal concern. It's actually a great example of external pressures driving tech evolution.
So we've really covered a lot of ground today, haven't we?
Yeah.
Journeyed through the hand geometry market from its basic strengths, the specific, sometimes surprising niches it dominates, right through to the inherent challenges it faces, and finally how it's cleverly adapting. It really shows how older tech isn't always just replaced, is it? It often gets reimagined.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought for you, connecting this to the bigger picture. Just consider how technologies, even ones that might seem less distinctive or, cutting edge on the surface, can adapt. They combine, they find new relevance, often by directly addressing these evolving societal needs, things like hygiene, cost, specific tough environments. That's how they often secure their longevity. What does that tell us about how innovation really works? It's not always about a dramatic replacement. Often it's about smart reinvention and integration.
That's a fantastic thought to leave you with. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today.